Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Today I've got Dr. Brian Benfield with me, and we're going to be talking about a little bit of the history of DuePoint and more specifically the reasons why we chose to commit the time and the capital into this business in creating the solution we wanted to a problem that we have in South Africa today, that every one of us has in South Africa today. And so we're going to talk through this over the next few minutes. I hope that for those of you who are wondering about DuePoint, this video helps you to come to some conclusions. And for those of you who are already wealth engineers, my hope is that this will equip you even further in understanding the business and being able to chat to other South Africans as you try and connect them to DuePoint with more confidence and more knowledge. That's the critical thing when it comes to building trust, is that you have knowledge and confidence. And hopefully this video will assist you with that. And so, Dr. Benfield, we started DuePoint in 2016, but before that, there was a lot of thought and a lot of energy that was put into that launch. Do you remember what we thought about it?
I remember it well. In fact, we went through several ideas, business ideas. When you came back from MIT in Boston, USA, at the business school there, we were thinking about various different businesses that we might open. And I remember well all of the iterations we went through before we arrived at DuePoint. I think you may want to give me your recollections, because you might prompt some of my memories.
Absolutely.
All the circles we went round and round and round before we came out with what I think is probably the best direct selling business in the country.
Today, absolutely. I mean, we had a very clear problem that we were trying to solve at the time. We said that if we're going to start a new business in South Africa, we have to solve the key problem, which is one we still have today. In fact, it's probably exacerbated at the moment, and that is that the average South African is in a financial crisis. Most don't know they're in it yet, and some are in denial about it. But we have a problem that South Africans cannot control their income, and they cannot control their expenditure at the moment. Now, how does one solve that problem as a business? What kind of business do you form if you're trying to tackle an economic problem in a country?
That's right. Well, while we were thinking about it, now with the benefit of hindsight, I think a lot of our decision making was decided for us by pure instinct, actually. And the word instinct comes to mind as a sort of acronym that one can use with the benefit of hindsight as to how we got to the whole idea of DuePoint. Mm-hmm. DuePoint, I think, is one that's perhaps one of its most attractive characteristics is that it is so very inclusive. No one is excluded from DuePoint. No matter what your background, your training, your education, your financial position, your social status, your competencies, your abilities, everyone is included. Now, we always hear this term in South Africa, we need to be more inclusive. Nothing is more inclusive than DuePoint.
Absolutely.
Nobody's excluded.
You try and compare that to other types of businesses. So just like what you've said, we've said we need this inclusive business if we're going to solve this problem. What would be another type of business? We could have started a call center and put 1,000 people into a football size factory to make. That's 1,000 people whose problems we would solve. But there's 55 million people in South Africa. Right. The others are all automatically excluded.
Exactly.
We could have started a business that hired maybe 100 specialists or 500 specialists. Again, they would be the only ones included in the solution. Inclusive at DuePoint means a business that everybody in South Africa can be involved in.
And absolutely right. And I'm thinking about the acronym INSTINCT, which of course is INSTINCT, instinct. Using each of the letters, I think we could come to a very clear analysis of what this business really is. Mm-hmm. The I we mentioned is inclusive, inclusive of everyone. The N is, of course, I think, for the word no. N-O, Brendan, no. No what? Imagine a business where you start, when you think a word like no is so important. No capital required. Mm-hmm. No stock required, no special training required, no selling required. You're starting your own business, no offices are required. No special licensing is required. In fact, it's so easy to get into this business of ours that I think the word no is perhaps one of the most key words we could think of.
In defining DuePoint.
In defining DuePoint. There's
Absolutely.
absolutely nothing required.
And I think linked directly to that word is the word unlimited. So you've got no limit to your
Yes.
potential. Right now in South Africa, no matter what you're doing, no matter what your job or title is, you are limited in your potential. There is only so much you will be able to extract out of your life in the position you're currently in. At DuePoint, you have immediately unlimited your potential, taken the lid off your potential as you become a wealth engineer with us, because your ability to create wealth that's sustainable in our model does not come with any sort of limitation. Like you've said,
right.
there's no cost, so you're not putting in capital to increase your potential. You're not having to get officers to increase your potential,
Right.
or systems or regulation.
Right.
But at the same time, we as the business of DuePoint do not restrict what you can build in the DuePoint system with us. You're immediately given no limitation to your potential in the DuePoint system.
That's right. And if we move on from the letter N to S, well, S for me stands for perhaps two things. Simple, very easy to understand products, very easy to understand returns and rewards. Don't know how many times we hear of people getting into businesses where they don't really understand the product, they don't really understand the servicing of the product, they don't
absolutely.
really understand how they're remunerated, their returns and rewards. Whereas with DuePoint, it's about as simple, I think, as it can be made. But the other S that comes to mind is the one of second stream of income. Every one of us needs that. You know, if you have a job, if one has a job, one thinks one has security, another S, but you don't really. I mean, how many times haven't we heard of people going to work on a Monday morning and the boss comes into the office and says, I'm sorry, but the company is winding up, or we have to retrench you,
Yes.
or we really don't like your face anymore, we want you to move along.
You're too old.
You're too old. So security you don't have, and there's no second stream of income to protect you from when that happens. Many people think when they've got jobs, they've got security. What they do need to have is security through a second stream of income that can be built up over time.
So we talk about the fact that South Africans think that insurance is a grudge purchase. When you're talking about simple, this grudge purchase that South Africans make because people don't believe they get value from insurance. But what we know after our years and years of being in this industry is that insurance supports the entire economy of every country in the world. Why? Because it's there in that moment when the disaster strikes. And at DuePoint, we're saying the average individual is in crisis at the moment because their risk of that disaster of them losing their primary income has become so real, even if they're ignoring it or denying it, that we have to do something about it. And so what we've created here is this tool, this instrument, where the average South African can create an insurance through a second income. It's more than just a second income. It's your safety net. We talk about it with our wealth engineers where we say when they get retrenched, there's nothing like getting retrenched when you know you're earning 25,000 Rand on the side,
Yes.
or even 10,000 Rand on the
Exactly.
side. Changes everything.
It does indeed. So the S stands for second income, security, stability, simplicity.
Simplicity. Yeah.
Very easy to understand. Now, that brings us to the T, Brendan. S-T. T stands in my mind for also a number of things, but in the first instance, trust. We felt that we had to build a company that would be trusted. And how best to do that when you're starting from the beginning? You have to have a company that's recognized as being a registered insurer, being properly licensed, being properly audited, having a proper set of buildings, having a proper set of employees, having bank references, all of the things that contribute to trust, and always meeting our promises, delivering on our promises to our wealth engineers.
That's right.
Trust, very important in the instinct that we got to when we formed this company.
And again, if we lean back onto South African culture, South African culture is we are nervous of these sorts of things. Why? Because there's so many that seem to churn through the economy. They come in, you can't find their offices, you can't find their executives, there's no telephone number. Sometimes there's an email address that often doesn't work, and then they're gone and they've taken your money. We said earlier, we don't take your money. We give you a simple task of connecting people. You don't have to worry about substandard products and all of that jazz. And at the same time now, we're saying, you know you can trust in us because we have so many people watching over us, established. Time has passed. We've got years behind us.
Well, that brings me, Brennan, to the matter of technology, and I'm holding this for a reason. Our technology, bleeding edge technology, right on the very edge of modern development. When we developed this company, DuePoint, we had to ensure, we felt, and I think we were right in this decision, that we used the latest technology. And what we have here, or in an iPad, or a laptop, or a computer at home, is the technology which allows you, in fact, to carry your business in your pocket. I mean, isn't it remarkable? So the other T then stands for technology, or another reference to the letter T stands for technology. The application that is on this cell phone that you carry around with you allows you to have a business in your pocket at no cost. All the costs have already been paid. All the technology is developed, and it's being developed all the time with a full-time development team, allowing you to take your business with you wherever you go, all over the country, all over the world. You can be on holiday in Albania and be checking your business while you're away, right here in your pocket. Leading edge technology.
The simple choice to use technology instead of paper-based, archaic, antiquated business styles of application forms and physical products and all of that sort of jazz made DuePoint instantly nationwide. And it made DuePoint instantly 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. When people say, Brendan, I do not have time for this business, they do not realize that the business we have created here is a business that actually buys your time back, but has been built in the context of you not having time. So that you can actually get into this business any time of the day to start buying that time back that you are losing right now in whatever you're doing.
That's absolutely right. So the technology allows you complete freedom and gives you a business in your pocket. Very, very rare, especially when it doesn't cost you anything as a wealth engineer. Now that, of course, brings us to the next letter, which is another I, the second I in instinct. And that, of course, is a matter of intergenerational. Because the wealth that you develop over time, and as you've said so many times, this is not a get-rich-quick business. It's a get-rich-quick, very slowly business. So long as you put the time and energy in, you will start making a very reliable second stream of income, which is intergenerational.
That's right.
You pass it down from family member to family member. Your dependents can inherit your business from you. They can choose to continue with it if they wish to after you've gone, or they can choose not to. But it's intergenerational. The income that you're generating now will go on beyond you. What a wonderful legacy to leave.
We disparage the super wealthy around the world. We call them super wealthy these days. Once upon a time, they would have just been called wealthy terribly because of their wealth. If you think about culture globally now, if somebody's wealthy, they must have stolen something from someone to get wealthy. But what we do know actually, the facts behind them, is that those that have become that wealthy have not done it in one generation. They've never done it. They've built on their wealth generation after generation after generation. And if we are going to solve the economic problems that we have in South Africa, we cannot think for ourselves only. And as I've said before, you may have a fantastic job where you're earning 500,000 Rand a month, but you know when you pass away, the business that you're in is not going to take your child and put it in your position. But if we build, like the super wealthy have done, assets, these things that we build at DuePoint that create income monthly, and we are able to hand it over to our children and to our grandchildren, allow them to grow it even further, remember, with no limitation to their potential, well, then we're able to create wealth, intergenerational wealth with the DuePoint system. We have solved that problem we were trying to achieve right at the beginning.
Quite right, and that, I think, Brendan, leads us to the next letter, N, which is noble. For me, stands for noble. It's a really noble business. First of all, we're not selling a product that does any harm. It only sells, only does good. I mean, imagine if we were selling alcohol or cigarettes or drugs, all things that don't do good for those who buy. In our case, our product always does good. And not only does our product do good, but it also means that those who become wealth engineers also have good done for them and for their families. And of course, we know how this business opens the minds of many people for the first time, realizing what it is to be an entrepreneur. Traveling for the first time all over the world with us, learning all kinds of things in our training courses that they'd never had before. A really noble business that does good only.
When I think about the word noble too, I think of the words pride and freedom. I've often said it at DuePoint, we don't build financial freedom. That's one element of freedom. We build the entire spectrum that defines freedom. It's financial freedom, it's time freedom, it's mental freedom. You mentioned the holiday or the trips, the travel that we introduce into the lives of people who have never had that before. We introduce into their lives vehicles that they can now have their freedom of transport and movement that we have. But we've built the whole system, more importantly, around a system and a culture of quality. Now, this is critical to understand. A lot of people of sort of our peer level are worried that their ego will be damaged by doing something that even remotely sounds like a direct selling or network marketing business. And we have built this business off of the back of the highest levels of quality, simplest system from you. All you've got to do is connect individuals to us, no selling or any of that jazz. And at the same time, what you know you're doing is in the spirit of community. What you're doing is creating wealth for yourself and others, bringing freedom to all that are involved in DuePoint. It is something you can be proud of. It is noble, as we've said at the end of the day.
Indeed. And that, of course, brings us now to the letter C in instinct, which for me is convenience. Convenient. Comes at a very convenient time, a very opportune time, when South Africans have been feeling the pinch now economically for some considerable amount of time, to develop that second stream of income we were talking about, but also to give them a new aspect, a new perspective on life, and a whole new set of hopes that can change their circumstances. Convenience, a very convenient time, a very convenient business, being able to carry it in your pocket, of course, allowing for you to operate at any time convenient to you. So an opportunity come at a very convenient time.
For people. And it's convenient as well because we don't ask you to do any of the complexities you're doing at your own work right now. Right. That is a difficult and complex job, what you're doing. And it's not one of those things you've seen or heard about in the past where you're having to buy a special car to carry stock around, and you have to have a fridge at home to keep it in or a garage to store it in. You've got to learn about all the products. You've got to come to training to learn how to present, etc., etc. We don't do any of that here at DuePoint. We give you the convenience of an entire business in your phone and one task. Just connect people to us. That's it. Just connect. We do everything else, absolutely everything else, while you build freedom with us. That simple, convenient
How could
step.
it be simpler to start your own business and get underway? Where does it lead?
Can't think of a better
Some
way.
people who've joined this sort of business become financial services providers, professional service providers a little later down the track. Well, it's not necessary, of course, with our business that you should become a professional advisor. We try to ensure, in fact, we make absolutely certain you don't give advice until you're properly qualified. But it's a wonderful way of getting to know and understand financial services and all that leads to, not just necessarily how insurance works, which is a small advantage that one gains, but apart from that, it's how the whole world of finance works that one automatically gets new insights into by belonging to DuePoint. The other thing, of course, is the last T in instinct, and that is for time. This business is designed to use only the one thing that you are rich in. If you're not rich in cash, you're rich in time. Now, a lot of people think they're not rich in time, but when they start to analyze their day and their week and their month and their year, quite a lot of time is wasted. just a little of that spare time needs to be invested, a couple of hours a week really, needs to be invested, in return for which one develops a long-term, stable, completely passive income in due course. That's worth so much and gives so much peace of mind that one starts, as you said a little earlier, to fear retrenchment or being fired or the business closing down a lot less when there is that backing of a second income which comes with the investment of time. And that's all, just time.
And we say that everything that's genuine in life requires time. People often forget that. When you sit down on your first day at your job, if I'd walked up to you and said, how many years do you intend on spending in this job? You'll say, well, the rest of my life. This is my career. But we here at DuePoint come to you and say, we can genuinely change your financial position permanently, possibly across the generations, but we're going to require your time. And people go, I don't have time. Well, folks, we have built our system so that you leverage others in buying back your time. This is a business that creates wealth 24 hours a day. Again, something you cannot do outside of DuePoint. Here you have the ability, through the investment of time, a little bit in the beginning, more later on, to get all of that time back and have leveraged it to create a wealth you simply could not have outside of DuePoint. So yes, time is definitely the price we ask for at DuePoint in the beginning, both in the creation of wealth, but in building something genuine. Thank you very much, Dr. Benfield, for your time. Hopefully our wealth engineers and prospective guests get some value out of what we've done here today. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Now that you've spent time, a little of your time, getting to know a little bit about DuePoint, why not invite everyone you know in South Africa? Don't you have an obligation now to invite everyone you know, every person you know now and may meet in the future, to get to know a little bit about DuePoint? You owe it to them, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, you owe it to all the generations that are to follow you, that you should optimize your income, optimize all of your knowledge and understanding of what goes on in this world. So much you will learn by being involved with DuePoint. I suggest to you, spend a couple of hours a week of all that time that we waste when we just chatting to friends or watching television or generally doing nothing. Just a little of that time, that's all that's required to develop a really strong second income and a really good flow of knowledge and understanding of how this world really works. Good luck.